June stepped off the transport ship and onto the gleaming floor of Nexus 7 space station. He clutched his bag tightly. This was his first time away from Earth, and the first time a human had been invited to join an alien research team. He tried not to stare at the tall, blue-skinned Vralins that moved around him. "You must be the human," said a sharp voice. June turned to see a Vralin in a silver uniform. He had dark blue skin and 3 yellow eyes that blinked at different times. "Yes, I'm Jum Kim, archaeologist from Earth University," Jum said, holding out his hand. The Vralin looked at Jum's hand, but did not take it. "I am Chief Researcher Krell. Follow me." June dropped his hand and followed Krell through the busy station. Vralins stopped to look at him. Some pointed. Others whispered. Humans were rare in this part of space. "The research meeting starts in 1 hour," Krell said without looking back. "Do not be late." Jun was shown to a small room that would be his home for the next 6 months. He quickly unpacked his things and studied his notes. The Vralins were known for their advanced technology. They had been traveling in space for thousands of years, while humans had only reached the stars a century ago. When Jun entered the meeting room, 12 Vralins turned to stare at him. "This is the human archaeologist," Krell announced. "He will assist with basic tasks." "But I was told I would be part of the research team," Jun said. Krell made a sound like rocks falling. It took Jun a moment to realize it was laughter. "Human technology is primitive. Human science is basic. You will carry equipment and take notes," Krell said. Several other Vralins joined in his laughter. A younger Vralin at the end of the table spoke up. "I read his paper on ancient tech patterns. It was quite good." "Thank you," Jun said, surprised. "Era is young and has strange ideas," Krell said. "She finds human culture interesting for some reason." Era's skin turned a deeper blue, but she did not respond. Krell turned on a large screen showing a green planet. "This is KX-219. Our sensors have detected unusual energy readings from its surface. We will investigate." June studied the planet. It was covered in thick jungle. "What kind of energy readings?" "The kind you would not understand," Krell said. More laughter filled the room. "Now be quiet and listen." For the next hour, the Vralins discussed their mission. They would land on KX-219 and search for the energy source. June listened carefully, making notes even though Krell had not asked him to. After the meeting, Jun sat alone in the station's viewing area, looking out at the stars. Earth was too far away to see from here. "Do not mind Krell," a voice said. Era sat down beside him. "He treats all non-Vralins this way." "Is he always so? Rude?" "Yes." Era smiled, showing teeth that glowed slightly in the dim light. "But you are the first human I have met, and I think your species has potential." "Thank you," Jun said, "though I seem to be the only one who thinks so." "The signal from KX-219 is strange," Era said, lowering her voice. "It has patterns that our scientists cannot explain. Perhaps you will see something we miss." Before June could ask more questions, an announcement echoed through the station. "Research team to Docking Bay 3. Departure in 30 minutes. "That's us," Era said, standing up. "Bring your equipment and warm clothes. Jungle planets are often cold at night." June gathered his things and headed to the docking bay. The Vralin ship was sleek and silver, much more advanced than Earth ships. The team boarded quickly, barely acknowledging June. As the ship pulled away from Nexus 7, June watched the stars blur outside the window. Whatever waited in the jungle of KX-219, he would prove that humans were worth respecting. He just needed a chance to show what he could do. The Vralin ship cut through the cloudy sky of KX-219, shaking as it entered the thick atmosphere. June held onto his seat tightly. Through the window, he saw nothing but green. The jungle spread across the land like a giant blanket. "Landing in 2 minutes," the pilot announced. "Prepare for touchdown." Krell turned to the team. "Remember, humans are not used to alien environments. Do not let him slow us down." June pretended not to hear. He was busy looking at the jungle below. Something about the trees seemed odd. They did not grow randomly like forests on Earth. There was a pattern to them, but he could not quite see it yet. The ship landed in a small clearing. When the doors opened, hot, wet air rushed in. It smelled like soil and plants, not too different from Earth's rainforests. Oxygen levels good, temperature normal. "No dangerous life forms detected," said Tav, the team's science officer. "We can remove helmets." The team stepped out into the clearing. Tall trees with purple leaves surrounded them. Strange birds with 6 wings called from above. Small, glowing insects buzzed around their heads. "June, carry these," Krell said, pointing to several heavy cases of equipment. June picked up the cases and followed the team into the jungle. The ground was soft under his boots. Looking down, he noticed small flowers that grew in perfect circles. "These flowers," June said, "they're growing in patterns." "Plants grow how they grow," said Mock, one of the security officers. "Focus on keeping up." They walked for 3 hours. June's back hurt from carrying the equipment, but he did not complain. He kept looking at the plants and trees. The more he saw, the more certain he became that something was not natural about this jungle. As the sun began to set, the team set up camp in another small clearing. The 2 security officers, Mock and Dren, set up force fields around the camp to keep animals away. "The energy signal is stronger to the east," Tav said, looking at a scanner. "We will head that way tomorrow." Krell pointed at June. "Human, set up the sleeping pods." While June worked, he noticed more strange patterns. The clearing was perfectly round. The trees around it were exactly the same height. This was not natural. "Has anyone noticed the patterns in the plant life?" he asked during dinner. "What patterns?" Krell asked with a bored voice. "The trees, the flowers. They're arranged in geometric patterns. Look at this clearing. It's a perfect circle." June pulled out his tablet and showed them photos he had taken. "These aren't natural formations." Krell looked at the photos and laughed. "The human sees shapes in random growth. Next, he will say the trees are talking to him." The other Vralans laughed, all except Era. She took June's tablet and studied the pictures. "There might be something to this," she said quietly. "Nonsense," Krell said. "The human knows nothing of alien plant life. His primitive education has not prepared him for real science." June's face grew hot with anger and shame, but he said nothing. After dinner, he sat alone at the edge of the camp, watching the jungle. As night fell, the forest began to glow. The flowers on the ground lit up with soft blue light. The glowing insects flew in circles above them. June watched, amazed, as the lights formed patterns across the jungle floor. They made lines and circles, pointing in one direction. When the rest of the team was asleep, June quietly stood up. He looked back at the camp. Everyone was in their sleeping pods. The security system would keep animals away, but it would not stop him from leaving. He stepped carefully over the force field line and into the dark jungle. The glowing flowers lit his path. They seemed to brighten as he walked past, as if showing him the way. June knew he was breaking the rules. He knew Krell would be angry, but something was calling to him in this jungle, and he had to find out what it was. June followed the glowing flowers deeper into the jungle. The night air was thick and warm. Strange sounds came from all around him, clicks and whistles from unseen creatures. But June kept walking, his eyes fixed on the path of blue light. After an hour, the trees began to thin out. June stepped into a clearing unlike the others. This one was not a circle but a perfect square. In the center was a large mound covered in vines and moss. June approached slowly. The blue flowers grew more brightly here, forming a line that led straight to the mound. He pushed aside some vines and gasped. Under the plants was smooth metal, not rock. He cleared away more vines to reveal a large metal door set into the ground. "Impossible," he whispered. The door was made of a dark metal he did not recognize. It had strange symbols carved into it, symbols that looked familiar somehow. June took pictures with his tablet and checked them against his database of ancient writing systems. To his surprise, some of the symbols matched old Earth writing. They were similar to markings found in ancient ruins back home, ruins that some archaeologists believed were left by visitors from space thousands of years ago. Most scientists laughed at this idea. But now, seeing these symbols on an alien planet, Jun wondered if those stories might be true. He tried to open the door, but it would not move. The edges were sealed with age and dirt. Jun recorded everything he could, taking samples of the metal and copying the symbols carefully. The sky was starting to lighten when Jun realized how long he had been gone. He needed to get back to camp before the others woke up. He marked the location on his tablet and hurried back, following the path of flowers that still glowed faintly in the dawn light. He slipped back into camp just as the others were waking up. Era noticed his muddy boots and gave him a questioning look, but said nothing. During breakfast, Jun could not contain his excitement. "I need to show you all something," he said. Krell looked annoyed. "We have a schedule to follow, human. Please, it's important. I found something last night." Jun held up his tablet. A metal door with symbols on it. The Vrelen stopped eating and looked at him. "You left camp at night?" Dren, the second security officer, asked with a frown. "Yes, but listen." "That was against protocol," Krell said sharply. "And what do you mean, you found something?" Jun showed them the pictures. It's a metal door built into a mound. The symbols on it match ancient Earth writing. Someone built this. Krell took the tablet and looked at the pictures. His 3 eyes blinked rapidly. "This is clearly a natural rock formation covered in fungus," he said dismissively. "Your human eyes see what they want to see. But the symbols, random cracks and marks," Krell said. He handed the tablet back. "We will continue our search for the energy signal as planned." "But this could be the source of the signal," Jun argued. "Enough." Krell's voice was loud enough to make birds fly from nearby trees. "One more word and you will stay at the ship when we return." Jun fell silent, his face hot with anger. As the team packed up camp, Era came to stand beside him. "I believe you," she whispered. "Show me your pictures again." Jun showed her his tablet. Era studied the images carefully. "These do look like deliberate symbols," she agreed. "And this metal, it's not like anything I've seen before." "Will you help me?" Jun asked. "I need to go back there." Era looked nervous. Krell would be very angry. "Our instruments have been acting strangely since we landed," Jun pointed out. "What if something at that door is causing the interference?" Era thought for a moment, then nodded. "Tonight, after the others sleep, we will go together." All day, Jun could barely focus on his work. He carried equipment and took notes as ordered, but his mind was on the metal door and what might lie behind it. Something ancient was buried in this jungle, something that might change everything humans and Vrelans thought they knew about the past. The team moved through the jungle all day. Krell kept checking his scanner, looking for the energy signal. The air grew hotter and thicker. Strange clouds gathered overhead, dark and heavy. "Storm coming," Tav said, looking up at the sky. "A big one." "We will make camp here," Krell ordered. "Set up the weather shields." Jun helped set up the camp, glancing often at Ara. She nodded slightly. Their plan was still on. After dinner, Jun checked his tablet one more time, making sure he remembered the way to the metal door. As night fell, the storm grew closer. Lightning flashed in the distance. The wind picked up, bending the tall trees. "This is no ordinary storm," Dren said, watching the sky. "The weather scanner shows strange energy patterns, similar to the signal we're tracking," Tav added. Suddenly, a massive bolt of lightning struck a tree near the camp. There was a loud crack as the tree split in half. The ground shook. More lightning followed, striking all around them. "The shields are failing," Mock shouted as rain began to pour down. "We need to move," Krell ordered. "Head back to the ship." Everyone grabbed what they could and ran. The rain was so heavy that June could barely see. He felt a hand grab his arm. It was Era. "This way," she shouted over the storm. Lightning hit the ground right in front of them. The earth cracked open, separating June and Era from the rest of the team. They could see the others through the rain, running in the opposite direction. "June, Era," Tab's voice came faintly through the storm. "Head for the ship. We'll meet you there." Then the others disappeared into the rain and darkness. "We can't go that way now," Era said, pointing to the deep crack in the ground. "The path is blocked." June looked around, trying to get his bearings. "My door is closer than the ship," he said. "We could shelter there until the storm passes." Era nodded, her blue skin shining wet in the lightning flashes. "Lead the way." They ran through the jungle, following June's tablet map. The glowing flowers were dim in the rain, but still visible enough to mark the path. After a hard run, they'd reached the square clearing. The mound with the metal door stood in the center, untouched by the storm. "In here," June shouted, pulling Era toward the mound. As they reached it, they saw that the rain had washed away more dirt and plants. The door was more visible now, and beside it was what looked like a control panel. "It's some kind of building," Era said, touching the metal surface. "Not just a door in the ground." June examined the panel. It had the same symbols as the door. "I think this opens it," he said. "Can you read these symbols?" Era asked. "Some of them," June said. "They're similar to writing found in ancient ruins on Earth, writings about people called the Seong." "The Seong?" Era's eyes widened. "We have old stories about beings called the Seong. They'd visited our world thousands of years ago. They looked similar to humans." "What?" June stared at her. "Humans have stories too, about advanced beings who came from the stars long ago. Most scientists think they're just myths." "Perhaps not myths after all," Era said, looking at the door with new interest. June studied the control panel. "This symbol means open in the old Earth writing," he said, pointing to a curved line. "And this one means enter or welcome." He pressed the symbols in sequence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a low humming sound came from within the mound. The door slid open slowly, revealing a dark passage leading down. Warm, dry air flowed out from the opening. Lights flickered on along the walls of the passage, activated by their presence. "It still has power," Era whispered, amazed. "After who knows how long." June took a step toward the passage, then hesitated. "We should wait for the others." "The storm is getting worse," Era said, looking back at the violent lightning. "And they're heading for the ship. We don't know when they'll come looking for us." June nodded. "You're right. Let's go in, but carefully." Together, they stepped through the doorway and into the ancient structure, leaving the storm behind. June and Era walked down the long passage. Lights turned on ahead of them as they moved, then turned off behind them. The walls were made of smooth metal with more symbols carved into them. "These tell a story," June said, touching the symbols, "about a great war in the stars." The passage sloped downward. After walking for 10 minutes, they came to another door. This one was bigger and had a red symbol in the center. "This means danger or power," June said. He pressed his hand to the door. To his surprise, it lit up with a blue light. A humming sound came from inside, and the door slid open. June and Era gasped at what they saw. They were standing at the edge of an enormous room, bigger than 10 football fields, and in the center was a massive ship. "Is that?" Era could not finish her sentence. "A spaceship," June whispered, "but unlike any I've ever seen." The ship was long and sleek, with sharp edges like a blade. It was dark gray with blue lines running along its sides. Despite being thousands of years old, it looked new and ready to fly. This is a Seong Thunderblade, Jun said, remembering old Earth stories. A warship that could destroy entire fleets. How do you know this? Era asked, her eyes wide. Old stories from Earth, tales about the Seong and their great ships. Jun shook his head in wonder. I never thought they were real. They walked across the large room toward the ship. As they got closer, parts of the ship began to light up. Blue lights ran along its hull, and a soft humming filled the air. It's responding to our presence, Era said. No, to your presence. She was right. The lights followed Jun as he moved around the ship. When Era walked ahead, nothing happened. But when Jun followed, more lights turned on. It must be programmed to respond to human DNA, Era said. That's why our people never found these ships. They would not work for Vrelans. At the front of the ship was what looked like a door. As Jun approached, it opened. Steps appeared, leading up into the ship. Should we go in? Era asked. I think we have to, Jun replied. This might be what was sending the energy signal. Inside, the ship was dark at first. Then, as Jun stepped in, lights came on. They were in a long corridor with doors on each side. At the end was a larger door that opened as they approached. They entered what was clearly the control room. Seats faced forward toward large windows. Control panels covered with symbols lined the walls. In the center was a raised chair, the captain's seat. When Jun stepped closer to the chair, a bright light appeared above it. The light took the shape of a person, a human man in strange clothes. It was a hologram. Welcome, Seong Commander, the hologram said in a language that Jun somehow understood. Ship systems activating after 5,000 years of dormancy. It's speaking an ancient Earth language, Jun said to Era. But I can understand it. What is it saying? Era asked, unable to understand the words. It thinks I'm a commander. It's activating the ship. Around them, screens lit up showing star maps and information in the ancient language. The ship hummed louder as more systems came online. This cannot be a coincidence, Jun said. Humans and the Seong must be connected. Maybe they were humans who left Earth thousands of years ago. Or maybe they are your ancestors, Era finished. The first humans. The hologram spoke again. Accessing logs. Would you like to view the final message from Captain Han? Yes, Jun replied. A new hologram appeared. Another human, wearing what looked like a uniform. He had a serious face and spoke quickly. This is the final log of the Thunderblade. The war goes badly. We have hidden our greatest ships across the galaxy, waiting for the day when our people might need them again. If you are seeing this, you carry our blood. You are our hope. Jun and Era looked at each other in amazement. The truth about human history was about to change forever. Jun and Era spent hours exploring the ship. Jun could read many of the controls because they used the same symbols he had studied on Earth. He learned that the ship was over 5,000 years old but still worked perfectly. The power source is still active, he told Era as they examined the engine room. It uses some kind of crystal technology we don't have on Earth. This is far beyond Vrellan technology too, Era admitted. We thought we were so advanced, but the Seong were far ahead of us. A loud noise from outside the ship made them both jump. They hurried to the control room and looked at the external cameras. 4 figures had entered the large room and were walking toward the ship. It's Krell and the others, Era said. Jun and Era left the ship and walked down the steps to meet them. Krell, Tav, Mok, and Dren stood staring at the massive warship with their mouths open. What is this place? Krell demanded, his voice echoing in the huge room. For the first time, he did not sound confident. It's a Seong Thunderblade warship, Jun said. Hidden here thousands of years ago. Impossible, Krell said, but his voice was weak. He could not deny what was right in front of him. How did you find this? Jun found it, Era said proudly. The symbols on the door matched ancient writing from Earth. The ship responds to him because he has human DNA. It seems the Seong were ancient humans, or humans are descendants of the Seong. Krell's 3 eyes blinked rapidly as he tried to process this information. You're saying humans are descended from the most advanced civilization known in galactic history. That's what it looks like, Jun said. Tav stepped forward, his scanner in hand. This is definitely the source of the energy readings we detected. The power level is off the charts. Krell pushed past Jun and marched toward the ship. I will examine this technology myself. As lead researcher, I claim this discovery for Vraylan science. He tried to climb the steps into the ship, but nothing happened. The door remained closed. Krell pressed his hands against it, but it did not open. It only responds to human DNA, Era explained. Only Jun can activate it. Krell turned to Jun, his face dark with anger and jealousy. Make it work, human. Jun stood his ground. My name is Jun, and this ship isn't yours to claim. It belongs to my people. Your primitive species wouldn't know what to do with such technology. Krell sneered, but his voice lacked conviction. I've already accessed the ship's logs, Jun said. The Seong fought a terrible war against an enemy called the Void Collective. They hid their ships throughout the galaxy as a last resort. Jun walked up the steps, and the door opened for him. The others followed, with Krell reluctantly coming last. In the control room, Jun sat in the captain's chair and activated the hologram again. It spoke in the ancient language, which only Jun could understand. I'll translate, Jun told the others. It's explaining the war and why the ship was hidden here. The hologram showed images of great battles between ships in space. The Seong ships, similar to the Thunderblade, fought against dark, strange vessels. The Seong nearly destroyed themselves fighting the Void Collective. Jun translated. They hid their best ships and technology, hoping their descendants would find them if needed. So humans are the descendants of the Seong? Tav asked, fascinated. It appears so, Jun said. Or at least, we share their DNA. Krell paced around the control room, touching nothing. His attitude had changed. He no longer mocked Jun, but watched him carefully. Can you fly this ship? He asked finally. I think so, Jun said. The controls respond to me, and the system is teaching me how to use them. Then I suggest we work together, Krell said, his voice serious. This discovery changes everything we thought we knew about humans and their place in the galaxy. Jun nodded, surprised by Krell's sudden respect. But a warning light began flashing on one of the control panels, drawing everyone's attention. What's happening? Era asked. Jun looked at the flashing symbols and felt a chill. Something's wrong. The ship has detected a signal. Something out there has noticed that we've activated the Thunderblade. The warning lights continued to flash. A deep sound like a horn echoed through the ship. Jun worked quickly at the control panel, trying to understand what was happening. The ship sent out a signal when we activated it, he explained. Like a beacon, and something has answered. A large screen at the front of the control room lit up. It showed the space above planet KX 219. 7 strange ships had appeared there. They were dark with red lights and shaped like sharp triangles. What are those? Dren asked, his hand moving to his weapon. Jun read the information on the screen. The ship's computer doesn't recognize them exactly, but they match some characteristics of scavenger ships, space pirates who hunt for ancient technology. Pirates. Mok looked worried. How did they get here so fast? They must have been waiting, Era said, watching for any sign of Seong technology. Another alarm sounded. The screen zoomed in on the scavenger ships. They were releasing smaller ships that were heading toward the planet's surface. They're coming here, Tav said. They must have detected the energy signature. Krell turned to Jun. Can this ship fly? Can we escape? Jun studied the controls. I think so. But the computer says the ship needs time to fully activate. It's been dormant for thousands of years. How much time? Krell demanded. At least 2 hours. Krull shook his head. Those scavenger ships will be here in less than 1 hour. The ship's computer spoke again in the ancient language. June listened carefully. The ship is activating its defense systems, he translated, but it needs more power. What about our research ship? Era asked. Could we use that to escape? Tav looked down. The storm damaged it. It won't fly. They were trapped. The scavengers were coming, and they had nowhere to run. The ancient ship was their only hope, but it wasn't ready yet. We need to buy time, Jun said. The entrance to this place is well hidden. If we close the outer door and hide, they might not find us right away. And if they do find us? Mok asked. Then we fight, Dren said, checking his weapon. They quickly made a plan. Krell, Tav, and Mok would go to the entrance and hide the outer door under dirt and plants. Dren would set up defensive positions around the large room. June and Ara would stay on the ship and try to speed up its activation. As the others left, June sat in the captain's chair again. He placed his hands on the controls and closed his eyes. The ship seemed to respond to his thoughts as well as his touch. I think I can help it activate faster, he told Ara. It's like it wants to connect with me. Ara watched as June concentrated. The blue lights on the ship grew brighter. The humming sound became stronger. It's working, she said. The power levels are rising. On the screen, they could see the scavenger ships getting closer to the planet. The computer showed that 4 small ships had already entered the atmosphere. Who do you think they are? Era asked. The ship's records mention groups that searched for Seong technology after the war, Jun said. They've probably been looking for ships like this for centuries. The ship's computer spoke again, and a new hologram appeared. It showed a man in a different uniform. I am the ship's eye. It said in a language both June and Ara could understand. I have adapted to your current language patterns. I must warn you that the Thunderblade's activation may have also awakened other things. What things? June asked. The enemy we fought. The Void Collective. Some of their forces went into hibernation. The beacon signal might wake them too. June and Ara looked at each other in alarm. They weren't just dealing with scavengers. They might have awakened an ancient and terrible enemy. The computer screen showed that the scavenger ships had landed in the jungle nearby. A group of armed figures was moving toward the hidden entrance. They're here, Era said. Krull's voice came through a communicator. They found the entrance. Everyone, prepare for battle. The sound of weapons fire echoed through the large room. Krull and the others had taken positions behind equipment and pillars. The scavengers were trying to force their way in through the main entrance. There are too many of them, Mok shouted over the noise. Inside the ship, Jun worked frantically at the controls. The ship was powering up, but too slowly. The screen showed at least 20 scavengers entering the facility. We need more time, Jun said to Era. Can you help the others hold them off? Era nodded and took a small weapon from her belt. Be careful, she said before running down the steps to join the fight. June turned back to the controls. The ship's eye appeared beside him. There is a faster way to activate the ship, the AI said, but it is dangerous. Tell me, June demanded. You must connect directly with the ship's core. It will read your genetic code and fully activate, but the process is painful and has not been tested in 5,000 years. June didn't hesitate. Show me how. The AI led him to a small room behind the control center. In the middle was a chair surrounded by glowing blue crystals. Sit and place your hands on the crystals, the AI instructed. The ship will do the rest. June sat down and put his hands on the crystals. They were warm to the touch. As soon as he made contact, blue light shot up his arms and spread across his body. Pain like fire raced through him, and he cried out. But he kept his hands on the crystals. Images flashed in his mind. Stars, planets, battles. He saw the Seong fighting great wars. He saw Earth as it was thousands of years ago, when the Seong visited it. He saw the terrible Void Collective and their dark ships. All the history of the Seong poured into his mind. Outside, the battle was going badly. The scavengers had breached the main doors and were pushing the Vrelans back. Their leader, a tall figure in black armor, walked calmly through the fighting. "Find the ship's controls," he ordered his followers. "Kill anyone who gets in your way." Krell ducked behind a pillar as shots hit the wall near him. He had never been in a real battle before. Fear made his hands shake, but when he saw Era bravely firing back at the scavengers, he found his courage. "We must protect the ship until June can activate it," he shouted to the others. "It's our only hope." The scavengers advanced, pushing the Vrelans closer to the ship. Mok was hit in the arm and fell back, wounded. Dren helped him to safety while Tav and Era continued firing. Inside the ship, Jum's body was now covered in blue light. The crystals glowed brighter than ever. The pain was terrible, but something else was happening too. He felt the ship becoming part of him. He could sense every system, every weapon. "Genetic match confirmed," the AI announced. "Seong Commander status granted. All systems online." The pain suddenly stopped. June opened his eyes, which now glowed with the same blue light as the ship. He stood up, filled with new knowledge and power. He ran back to the control room. Through the windows, he could see his friends being pushed back by the scavengers. The ship's weapon systems were now ready. June activated the external defenses. Outside, everyone froze as the Thunderblade's weapons ports opened. Small turrets emerged from the ship's hull and fired precise shots at the scavengers. None of the Vrelans were hit. The scavenger leader looked up in alarm. "The ship is active. Fall back." But it was too late. The ship's engines roared to life. The entire structure around them began to shake. Dirt and plants fell from the ceiling as the ancient facility prepared to open. "Get on board." June's voice boomed through speakers around the room. Now, Krell and the others ran toward the ship. The steps were down, waiting for them. Dren helped the wounded Mok while Era, Tav, and Krell fired back at the retreating scavengers. One by one, they made it onto the ship. As soon as they were all aboard, the door sealed shut. The control room lit up as June took the captain's chair. "Hold on to something," he said, his eyes still glowing blue. "We're leaving." With a mighty roar, the Thunderblade's engines fired at full power. The ceiling of the facility opened up, revealing the jungle above. The ship rose slowly at first, then faster, pushing through thousands of years of growth toward the open sky. The Thunderblade shot up through the jungle canopy, ripping apart trees and plants as it rose. Inside the control room, the Vrelans held onto their seats as the ship climbed higher and higher. "Is everyone okay?" June asked, his eyes still glowing blue with the ship's energy. "Mok needs medical help," Dren said, supporting his wounded friend. "There's a medical bay 2 doors down the hall," Jum said, the knowledge coming to him automatically. "The ship will know how to treat him." As Dren took Mok to get help, Era, Tav, and Krell stared at June in wonder. He was changed. He moved with new confidence and spoke with authority. "What happened to you?" Era asked. "I connected with the ship's core," June explained. "I can access all Seong knowledge now. I understand who they were, who we were." The ship broke through the clouds and entered the upper atmosphere. On the main screen, they could see the 7 scavenger ships waiting in orbit. "They're getting ready to attack," Tav warned, looking at the screen. "Let them try," Jun said calmly. He placed his hands on the control panel, and the ship responded instantly to his thoughts. The Thunderblade accelerated, its ancient engines more powerful than any modern ship. The scavengers fired their weapons, but energy shields appeared around the Thunderblade, absorbing the blasts without damage. "Incredible," Krell whispered. He was no longer the proud, mocking alien who had looked down on June. Now he watched with respect, and even fear. June activated the ship's weapons. Beams of blue energy shot out, cutting through 2 scavenger ships as if they were made of paper. The other ships tried to scatter, but the Thunderblade was faster. "We should try to capture one," Era suggested, to question them. June nodded and targeted the largest ship, the scavenger leader's vessel. The Thunderblade fired a different weapon that wrapped the enemy ship in a field of energy, freezing it in place. "Their engines and weapons are disabled," June announced, "but they can still breathe and talk." The remaining scavenger ships fled, jumping to light speed to escape. June let them go. He had questions for their leader. Using the ship's technology, they brought the scavenger leader aboard. He was a thin, gray-skinned alien with 4 arms and angry red eyes. "Who are you? Why were you waiting for this ship?" June demanded. The scavenger sneered. "I am Commander Vex. My people have searched for Seong technology for generations. The stories say their ships could travel between galaxies in days, that their weapons could destroy stars." "The stories are true," June said, "but this technology isn't for those who would use it for destruction." After learning all they could from Vex, they placed him in a small ship with enough fuel to reach the nearest space station. They watched him go, a warning to others who might seek Seong weapons. Alone on the ship, June accessed the star charts stored in the computer. They showed hundreds of locations where other Seong ships and bases were hidden throughout the galaxy. "There are more ships like this one," he told the others, "and bases with technology beyond anything we have today. My people, humans, have a legacy we never knew about." Krell approached June, his head bowed slightly. "I was wrong about humans," he admitted. "Your people are not primitive. They are the heirs of the greatest civilization our galaxy has ever known." June smiled. "We all have much to learn from each other. The Seong worked with many species, including early Vrelans. We were allies once." As the Thunderblade set course for Earth, June looked at the star map again. There were so many places to explore, so much history to rediscover. "What will you do now?" Era asked, standing beside him. "First, I'll take you all home," June said. "Then I'll go to Earth and tell them what we found. This ship is just the beginning. There's a whole legacy waiting for us among the stars." The Thunderblade turned toward Vrelan space, its engines glowing blue against the blackness. Behind them, planet KX-219 grew smaller. The jungle had kept its secret for 5,000 years. Now that secret would change the future of the galaxy forever. As captain of the most powerful ship in known space, Jung was no longer the mocked human archaeologist. He was the bridge between humanity's forgotten past and its unlimited future.